militia group, the Oath Keepers, is currently under fire because 9 of their members are facing seditious conspiracy charges for their role in the January 6th coup or attempted coup. And I think we all knew that, but we didn't know that their defense lawyers are taking a very interesting new tack. So check this out. Jurors are going to be told when the trial begins that the far-right extremists believed President Donald Trump would invoke the Insurrection Act as they gathered at the Capitol, 100 strong in their camo-colored tactical gear, and turn them into his own ultra-loyal federal militia. Now, that sounds nuts, but effectively the argument is if they become the president's militia, then you can't touch them. This is what they thought they were going to do. I don't know if it's gonna work on this jury, but it makes sense that the head of the Oath Keepers, which by the way, if you guys didn't know, is made up of current and former US military personnel from all different aspects of US military. So that is who they recruit, that is who they continue to recruit. But Elmer Rhodes, who's the head of it, said that day, do not concede, do not wait until January 20th, 2021, Inauguration Day, strike now. And he urged that in an open letter to Trump on December 14th, 2020, quote, "You must call us up and command us." Now, mind you, this is a week where we're finding out that Trump did wanna go command the Oath Keepers and others from the Capitol itself. But okay, let's look at this legal strategy. So James Lee Bright, the lawyer for Rhodes, acknowledged that most people will be shocked to learn the Oath Keepers thought they'd become federal militia. They believed what? Bright imagined people thinking these guys are effing crazy. So that's a lawyer for the head of the Oath Keepers, trying to sort of like soften the blow that I think most people and will have, and the reaction that we will have, which is, what? They thought that? But I wanted to turn it over to you guys. Is this going to work on the jury?
Yeah, so guys, there's a couple of different issues here. One is the one Francesca mentioned about whether it's going to work. Is it a good legal defense? And the other is, did they actually believe it? Because even their own lawyer says it sounds nuts. So I want to tackle it one at a time. In terms of whether they actually believed it, absolutely is my answer. And I think it's hard for a lot of people that live in the rational world that we live in to understand that and to believe it. They think, no, they didn't really think that Trump was gonna come and go, "You are now the militia, and you might go and grab your guns," and they literally thought this, and they admit this. You can now go get your guns that were stashed, not just the spears and the bear spray and all, and the nooses, that you already have those weapons. That's gonna come into the second part of the conversation. Go get more weapons and now start to kill the Democrats. And and people think there's no way they actually thought that. No, they did. They absolutely, positively did think that. It's in the recordings. They talk amongst each other. He's gonna do the Insurrection Act. And to be quote unquote fair to them, Trump has said on several occasions during his presidency that he would use the Insurrection Act in different contexts. And not necessarily to kill political opponents, but that he would use it to put, for example, to put down the George Floyd protests. So before we go on to whether it's gonna work as a legal defense, do we all agree to that these guys were genuinely nuts and actually believe this stuff?
Yeah, I wanted to give a little bit more context for that, Jordan, before I let you jump in. Let's just, cause I think Cenk's right, and I think that the evidence bears it out. And so they have a little bit more to stand on other than like, we thought maybe he would, I don't know. Okay, so this is also from Insider. Reason one, they were invited security force for rally planners and participants on January 6th, including Roger Stone, Ali Alexander, remember he was one of the main organizers, Latinos for Trump, Virginia Women for Trump. Reason two, they were awaiting Trump's orders. That feels a little more vague to me, but the first one feels concrete. And the Insurrection Act, as we mentioned, this is graphic 6, is actually pretty broadly written. So it's so broadly written that leaving words like insurrection, militia, militias of the state without clear definition, Trump actually could have federalized the Oath Keepers. Rhodes lawyers will tell jurors it's so far-fetched and yet it's legal, at least until a court decides otherwise. Again, that is the lawyer for the Oath Keepers, but he might not be wrong in this case.
I don't want to make any predictions about how this case is going to go because it's just, especially the past couple of weeks, it just really underscores how bad our judicial system is in this country. So I'm just gonna hope and pray that we don't have a worst possible outcome. But what this really represents is just how close Trump and his administration was to just some of the most fringe aspects of our country. Like the groups they were closely linked to, the communication between a lot of these intermediaries, these kind of fringe figures, like you mentioned, Ali Alexander, and of course, James O'Keefe, which we just saw this week from Jason Leopold from BuzzFeed. He obtained documents that showed Mark Meadows was sharing James O'Keefe tweets with other members of the Trump administration. So like they're just totally all in on some of the worst actors in the conspiracy space. So it's not really a surprise that these people might have thought he could have activated them or were following his orders. And it really is another dark reminder, as we've seen throughout all of these hearings, just how close we were to things getting much more violent. We're very lucky it wasn't a lot worse. And a lot of people have said this is a trial balloon. And as we'll get to later in the show, there are things that really show that this could happen again and be much more effective and much more violent.
Yeah, so now as we transition to could this legal defense actually work, that's a different question. But in that bridge, I want to tell you what legal experts are right about and wrong about. They're right that the wording of that statute is very vague. It's from 1792, got updated in some ways in 1956, and the updates say that the president can't do that. And if you just declare some people militia, what are the rules? Do they have to follow the same military code? Do they not have to follow military code? But one of the experts, Joseph Nunn from the Brookings Center, the Brennan Center, which is a very legitimate place, but he said, quote, "There's no world in which it's remotely likely where the president of the United States would invoke the Insurrection Act and call on what is fundamentally just a social club of guys who have firearms." Joseph Nunn is incorrect. Not even remotely true. Trump definitely would have done that, was considering doing that. Okay, so now, having said that, can you just go into court and say, well, I thought Trump was gonna turn me into a violent mob that got to murder people? And the simple answer is no, you can't say that. Okay, so hey, I thought the vaguely worded statute allowed me to do political murder if the president told me to. It's not gonna work. First of all, the president didn't tell you to do it. To be fair to Trump, as far as we know at this moment, he certainly didn't order it on that day, and he might have considered it, and if he did, then that is very bad news for him because then he was planning a seditious conspiracy. But as far as we know, there was no orders given by Trump. You are now militia, go murder people, right? So the orders were not given. So that blows their defense completely. But the second line of their defense is, well, that's why we didn't go and get our guns and start killing everybody. That's why we only used the smaller weapons that we had. No, that's not a defense either. Okay, I remember my friends, I've told the story before to the members in a bonus episode, but my friends had gotten attacked by a bunch of guys in our hometown when we were younger. They actually went to court for assault charges. And the guy who attacked them said, oh no, that's not true, Your Honor. I didn't punch him in the face, I punched him in the stomach. No, that's still assault and you're still in a lot of trouble. And so saying, oh, I plan to do the seditious conspiracy even though Trump didn't order it, but I thought he was gonna order it. And I just speared the cops and smashed their heads against the wall, but I didn't actually use my AR-15 is not a great defense.
No, and whether or not it absolves anyone, if anything, it further impugns them and it definitely shows that the president, even another piece of evidence that he knew there was gonna be violence, he knew there were armed people. And if you needed a reminder, let's just briefly take a look again at what this week revealed from the January 6 hearings. Cassidy Hutchinson, top aide to Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, who testified that Trump knew there was gonna be violence. And then, oh yeah, he knew the names of these militias. Take a look.
The president apparently wanted all attendees inside the official rally space and repeatedly said, quote, "They're not here to hurt me."
And just to be clear, so he was told again in that conversation, or was he told again in that conversation that people couldn't come through the mags because they had weapons?
Correct.
And that people, his response was to say they can march to the Capitol from the ellipse.
Something to the effect of, take the effing mags away, they're not here to hurt me, let them in, let my people in, they can march to the Capitol after the rally's over, they can march from the ellipse, take the effing mags away, then they can march to the Capitol.
Right, and I want to follow that up immediately with this, showing that Trump did know the kinds of militias who were there that day.
Although Ms. Hutchinson has no detailed knowledge of any planning involving the Proud Boys for January 6th, she did note this.
I recall hearing the word Oath Keeper and hearing the word Proud Boys closer to the planning of the January 6th rally when Mr. Giuliani would be around.
I mean, if we needed more evidence that this presidency colluded very, very intimately with these far right extremist militias, there you go. It was effectively his security squad on that day. So I don't know if that's gonna exonerate them. It seems pretty weak, but it also just shows you the delusion under which they were operating on that day.
Yeah, so look, I think rather than exonerating them, it implicates Trump. It's right. Remember the charges, seditious conspiracy. Did they conspire together, work on a plan to commit sedition? And the Oath Keepers are saying, in essence, yes, we did. That's why we had our heavy weaponry stashed away in Arlington, Virginia. We were in our hotels. We were gonna go grab them and come back. We had our light weapons on us. We were planning to be declared a militia. We thought that would make it legal. But you think that might make it legal, but your actions are still violent and illegal. And so, but if Trump said, yeah, get ready to do that, that doesn't mean that the Oath Keepers are innocent. It means Trump is guilty because he was part of that seditious conspiracy. And so, and guys, I will leave you on these two horrifying thoughts though. One of our members wrote in, Lou B, and we'd love to do the show with you guys, tyt.com/join to become a member. Lou B wrote in, this will go to the Supreme Court where all notions of reason or consistency go to die. And I was like, oh no, Lou makes a really good point. What if, I mean, they'll lose in the lower courts, even their lawyer says, I mean, I know it sounds nuts. And then when they ask him about the details of the law, he's like, well, I'll have to get back to you on that. We need a deep dive on that, if you will. But what if it goes to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court's like, yeah, sounds pretty good to me. Insurrection Act, anytime the president wants, says, oh, those randos over there, go kill the Democrats.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, it's unlikely, but it's now in this horrifying hellscape we live in, not impossible. Speaking of which, that leads me to my last number here. A poll just came out today. The question was, it may be necessary at some point soon for citizens to take up arms against the government. So how many people agree to that? 36% of Republicans say yes, it may soon be necessary to take up arms against the government. But it's not just, as you look at that graphic there, it's not just 36% of Republicans. At the end you see it's 35% of independents and 20% of Democrats agreeing. Among Americans who have guns in their homes, 37% agreed. So here we are waiting for a ticking time bomb where everyone, or at least a third of the country, feels like, yeah, I might have the right to go and, let's finish the thought. What is taking up arms against the government? I might have the right to go and kill government officials, whether they're cops, they're military, or they're politicians. We have a third of the country planning to murder government officials as we speak. This is not going to end well. This is an absolute epic disaster in the making.
that's just something that's been on my mind a lot, Cenk. So it's really frustrating to think that this is a sentiment that a lot of, especially Republicans, but some people across the board, are exploiting. Sometimes for personal or political expediency, but it's just really horrifying to think what that looks like in 5 to 10 years. The distrust of institutions, the crumbling infrastructure, these systemic problems that continue to keep people in bleak material conditions. What does that look like? And it's really devastating if you think about it. So that we're already there. We've got a third of Republicans saying that this is coming soon. I think that spells disaster.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.